read 57 books last year, and here is my favorite from every single month. Except for November, which I have two for. Starting with January, in which I finally read Hamlet, which I had on my shelf for a bit of a long time, written by Maggie O'Farrell. Obviously, it's being turned into a movie with my favorite actor in it, and I didn't know that when I read this, though. And I really didn't think I would enjoy it as much. I'm not really a big Shakespeare admirer before this. But it's not about him, it's about his family, and it was so great. It had so much whimsy and a bit of magical realism, and it was beautifully written. And I'll read you the summary, obviously. On a summer's day in 1596, a young girl in Stratford-upon-Avon takes to her bed with a sudden fever. Her twin brother Hamlet searches everywhere for help. Why is nobody at home? Their mother Agnes is over a mile away in the garden where she grows medicinal herbs. Their father is working in London. Neither parent knows that Hamlet will not survive the week. Hamlet is a novel inspired by the son of a famous playwright, a boy whose life has been all but forgotten, but whose name was given to one of the most celebrated plays ever written. Which, that's basically all you need to know. It's written from different points of views from the family members, and I thought it was greatly done, and I can't wait to see what they do with the movie. Hopefully it's good. Seems promising so far. Cried my eyes out. Thank you. Next. In February, I have 1.5 books to show you, because I finally read my first Arv Kwang, which is Yellowface, which, not to brag, but I have a signed edition. She's a genius. If you don't know what Yellowface is about, I will not read you the summary. I'll try to summarize it myself. It's about a white writer who steals the manuscript of an Asian writer, and she just tries to make it her whole thing, and it's absolutely crazy. It's about the book publishing industry, and it's about authors, and it's about insane people, and it's kind of little hint of magic realism. It's like kind of what just happened at the end. Arv Kwang is a genius. You'll notice a pattern. My other 5-star read, well, these are kind of 6-star reads, is If We Were Villains, but this was a reread, so I'm not counting it, but you should know that I reread If We Were Villains to annotate it for a friend, which I did. Next up, March, I read a recommendation from one of my friends, and it was The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, and oh my god, I've recommended this to so many people, especially as my time as a bookseller, 2 months. In 1974, 2 teenagers from opposite sides of divided Cyprus meet at a tavern in a city they both call home. The tavern is the only place that Kostas, who's Greek, and Daphne, who's Turkish, can meet in secret, hidden beneath the leaves of a fig tree growing through the roof of the tavern. This tree will witness their hushed, happy meetings, and will be there when the war breaks out and the teenagers vanish. Decades later, in North London, 16-year-old Ada has never visited the island where her parents were born. She seeks to untangle years of her family's silence, but the only connection she has to the land of her ancestors is a fig tree growing in the back garden of their home. Also, multiple points of view. The girl, the teenagers in love, and the fig tree. And oh my god, this is so brilliantly written. Incredible storyline. It had its grip on me. I read this in one sitting and I couldn't stop reading, and it's so beautiful. It's so romantic, so heart-filling, and it's also a little bit queer. A little much queer. The next month, I don't have a physical copy, theoretically, of the book that I read and enjoyed a lot. And it's really interesting because it's not a genre I usually read. But it was Heartstead Cut by Kika Hasapulu, which is the second book following Threads That Bind, which I have a copy of. And I had a lot of wonderful book opportunities this year. Book-related opportunities this year. My fondest book-related memory must be working with Kika, because she had this wonderful group of small book creators who helped her promote the book a little, and we got to talk to her a lot and ask questions, and it was just a really fun and exciting time for me, and I really enjoyed this book before I even ever had the chance of talking to her. I read the first one and I was so in awe. Especially because I usually don't read YA fantasy / noir / whatever. I read Greek mythology. That's what I read. Oh, God, this was such a wonderful book, and I think I like the second one even more. I sadly don't have a copy because I got it sent to me as a digital one, and I haven't had the spare money to buy me a copy. And it follows these 3 sisters that are descendants from the Fates. It's a lot about fate and if there's such a thing as fate. It has so many great things. It has an amazing love story, which I was surprised by because I don't read romantasy or anything of that sort. I only read literary fiction which has love in some shape or form in it. I enjoyed it a lot. I would recommend it to anyone because it has a little something for everyone. It has some really badass female main characters and a very good love story. And yeah, the second one's called Hearts That Cut, and if you want a little fun read in between your more dramatic reads, give it a try. Greek mythology, good female characters, queer, love interest is fabulous, many great things. Not as many great books as in May. I was kind of slacking about, and I also the books that I did read weren't that crazy good. But what I did really enjoy was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I still think about it a lot of times because it had a very creepy and eerie feel to it. And there's this one specific imagery that I can't get out of my head, but I won't tell you because you should read it yourself. It's very short, very quick horror read if you're interested, if you want to branch out a bit more. And it's very gothic, hauntingly beautiful but disgusting. I think I'll maybe look insane. Should I check? No, it's fine. Book that I have had on my shelf for a long time. In June, I think last day of June, I read In Memoriam in one sitting, which good for me, I guess. It's by Alice Wynne. Big on queer literary fiction TikTok, as it should be. It's very good. Very heartbreaking. I've recommended this to a few people. I got this as a gift from my best friend. It's a First World War love story between 2 men, and talks about their traumatic experiences, their heartbreak, their love for each other in a most stunning way. I think it's well done. And I love queer literary fiction a lot. Historical fiction, I guess. Which, coming to the next one, is Lie With Me. Don't know why it just got so chipper. It's Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, translated by Molly Ringwald. It's originally French, and I love this book a lot. I picked this up on a whim, kind of. I saw, I think, one of my go-to book recommendations, Girly, on TikTok, talk about it, and it sounded a lot like something that I would love, so I picked it up, and this might be generally one of my favorite reads this year. Must be. Before I start talking about it, one of the biggest reasons this one got me so much, because it's set in a small town in France, and it's probably a small town I've visited before, because we used to go right around that area every single Easter holidays, and I just could imagine the way it looked there and the vibes and whatever. And I really enjoyed it a lot. I'll read you the summary for this one. Just outside a hotel in Bordeaux, Philippe, a famous writer, chances upon a young man who bears a striking resemblance to his first love. What follows is a look back to Philippe's teenage years, to a winter morning in 1984, a small French high school, and a carefully timed encounter between 2 17-year-olds. It's the start of secret, intensely passionate, world-altering love affair between Philippe and his classmate Thomas. Dazzlingly rendered by Molly Ringwald, the acclaimed actor and writer, in her first ever translation, Besson's exquisitely moving coming-of-age story captures the tenderness of first love and the heartbreaking passage of time. And let me tell you how heartbreaking it was. I cried my soul out. There's so many great quotes. Let me see if I can find you one. I don't know if you can see, but I have so many dog ears in here, because there are so many great things. I don't know what to show, because I don't want to... Yeah, I'm not reading your quote. I don't want to give anything away because it was just like great. It's a fast, quick read. I think my personal I loved it a lot. I cried a lot. I enjoyed it a lot. I would recommend it to people who love queer books, obviously. Heartbreaking story. Loved the plot and the storyline, and the characters were very well thought out, and I just could imagine this very well, which is rare because I have a really bad visual imagination. I think the month in which I read the most books was August, because I was on vacation, and I packed 8 books, but some of my friends had books as well, so all in all I think we had over 20 books together. So I think I read 11 of them in 3 weeks, which was fun. And my favorite out of all of the ones I read in August, which was the first one I read in August, this is a Bosnian story originally, and it was perfect because this is it's a road trip book through Bosnia, which I outsmarted everyone because I read this on a bus ride through Bosnia. Can you believe it? I did that wonderfully. We had a 26-hour bus ride, and I started reading this the second we got into Bosnia, and I finished it like half an hour before we arrived where we wanted to be, which was Mostar, where this plays a bunch. Follows these 2 girlfriends who were separated by growing apart. She moved... Where did she move? Did she move to Dublin? Yeah, one of them moved to Dublin, and then she goes back home for that girl, and they reconnect, rekindle, and we learn a lot about their childhood in Bosnia and what it's like now, and how much the girl who moved to Dublin changed. And it's just a wonderful story about growing up and girlhood, and I like this a lot. And I did have the perfect timing because I also was in a bus full of my friends, and as I said, on my way to Bosnia. After an adventurous August, my September book was... And my October book was... I didn't read a single book in September or October. And I didn't meet my reading goal last year. But it's fine. But yeah, for November, I have 2 books. Because I really couldn't decide, because these 2 just fucked me up. No, they were so great. I don't remember which one of these I read first, which is crazy because it was last month. But before I show you the cover, just look at how many pages. Yeah, exactly. I haven't annotated a book this much since If We Were Villains, I think. It's A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson, which I've wanted to read for the longest of time because, look at the cover. Look at me, I love vampires. That's an understatement. It's a Dracula retelling of his 3 brides, and it was so wonderfully done. It's gothic, it's queer. Basically, to give you an idea of how they retold the story of Dracula. Dracula in this story is a very toxic and abusive boyfriend, husband, whatever you want to call him, and he's never spoken about by his name. He doesn't have a name in the story. If I had to pick a top 3, it would be Diary of Blood, Lie With Me, and this bad boy. This is Babel Babel by Aufgang, one of the dark academia books, and it's my favorite book of the year. Maybe my favorite book ever. When someone asks me what my favorite book is, I usually answer with Song of Achilles, because it was the book that got me back into reading, but it's not my favorite. Well, I do love it a lot, but you know. But even if you take out my personal opinion on this book, this is the greatest book ever written. I enjoyed this so much that I bought all 3 The Poppy War books, which I don't read fantasy. Apparently I do, but not that kind of fantasy. But Aufgang is just that good. I've recommended this to so many people. I've bought this as a gift to so many people, which is crazy because I read this last month. Well, it's January now, but November. I worked as a bookseller for 2 months. Recommended this to everyone that I work with and that bought books for me. Every single word and phrase was so well thought out, and I could tell how much love and passion she put into this project. and how much research. It's crazy. If you've been thinking about reading this is your sign. Thank you very much. Was An Education in Malice, which is same author as A Diary of Blood. I bought this right after reading A Diary of Blood because I was like, I need more of Ashley Gibson in my life. And this is a Carmilla retelling. I wouldn't call it a retelling, though it's inspired, but also not really. The same name. It's the same. They use the same names, and it's still sapphic and about vampires. That's all those are the connections to Carmilla. And if you don't know, Carmilla is a classic. It's the first vampire story ever told, basically. And this is not only vampires, it's also dark academia, which is it also deals with age gap relationships and toxic relationships and first loves and the loneliness of eternal life. Do you need anything else? Dark academia and vampires. Go get a grip and read it. Yeah, if you want to know what else I read last year or what I'm planning to read next or anything book related, vampire, yeah, check out my last video in which I talked about the movies I watched last year. And I hope this made sense, and I hope I didn't talk too much shit, and I hope I didn't yap too much, and I love you.